Surviving Sister Wives contains adult content that may not be suitable for Latter-day Saints or sinners. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Surviving Sister Wives.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Carly, and today we are here talking about Sister Wives Season 19, Episode 14, The Truth Will Set You Free.
Or as we know it from Liar Liar, and the truth shall set you free.
Too bad there wasn't a marriage here in which the contract could be voided.
My client lied about her age.
No, there were no prenups here. There was nothing to protect.
That's true, yeah, and no reason for a postnup because we haven't really gained too many assets along the way either. We always sink our financial resources into a home. That's where everything is built and then everything is lost.
I'm pretty sure Kody needs to do that with Robyn.
Now, at this point?
With all the bear statues, there's going to be a lot to fight over in a divorce proceeding.
But he paid all cash for those, so he doesn't have to report them.
It's no record that just disappear one day.
I'm pretty sure he read that on the Manosphere somewhere as part of the tax evasion advice.
This episode was kind of a filler, or a bridge, if you will.
A bridge, I don't know where the bridge is going, but it's not getting there fast enough for me. Because if I recall correctly, I remember TLC and people saying that at the beginning of this season, we would catch up to current day. And again, I question.
They didn't say how fast we'd be doing that.
They didn't say that. And then also, I think they meant current day, meaning the beginning of the season, which then that's going to put us still a year and a half behind once the new season airs.
They will never defeat that pattern.
No.
We're permanently stuck in it.
Current day. Whose current day? Space and time is relative. But the TLC description for this one is Kody and Robyn go on a date, and Kody rails against their former church. Christine and David host an engagement party with some messy tacos. Meri and Jen visit Brandy in Las Vegas to dish about her spiritual release from Kody.
Why did they even include David and Christine in this episode?
It was just dropped in. There was comedic relief, I suppose, even though there were a lot of moments where I laughed at Robyn and Kody. Most people were grossed out, I think. From the reactions, from the clips that people have seen so far.
It was difficult to watch. I don't need any more footage of them having intimate conversations together.
Ooh, any form of intimacy at all. It was less uncomfortable than watching the Christmas morning footage where Robyn basically sat on Kody's lap and he rubbed her back. I would rather watch them date instead of those little interjection things.
For years, they've tried to convince us that they weren't able to show any form of PDA because it made the other wives uncomfortable. But anytime these two get close to one another, the audience feels like it becomes unwatchable. So maybe that's just something about their chemistry.
Maybe it is. It's just, I'm trying to pin down what that would be, what the reaning for that
I'm just
is.
starting to think it wasn't jealousy in plural marriage.
No, it's just a general repulsiveness. Is it the fact that they don't care about anybody else's perception of that? Is that what makes it so appealing to them, to each other?
I mean, I felt like they did care what people thought because this entire conversation, again, seemed very staged to me.
Yeah, they've been running these lines. They did a couple of rehearsals, dress rehearsals, and now it's time for the big show, the matinee, opening night.
I would personally be more comfortable watching Meri back into Kody again in the moving truck.
Oh, I loved that. That was amazing. I would pay to see that over and over again. And I do. My subscription to Max is just so I can watch that clip on repeat.
People are going to start to get worried about what's going on over here.
I don't use it as inspiration or anything.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. No, I go to Brianna's Pinterest board for that.
Which, by the way, Rora's board has now gone private.
Quickly privatized. Yet Brianna, she doesn't care. She's out there. She's letting her freak flag fly. And I respect her for that. Tip of the hat to Brianna.
All right, you ready for an episode rewrite?
Yeah, I hope so.
Kody and Robyn perform a dramatic reading of their New York Times bestseller, Becoming Sister Wives, in Josephine's attic. Janelle racks up more frequent flyer miles. Meri pretends her friends are just loose cannons when the cameras start rolling.
Yeah, you never know what they're liable to say. And they're just going to say whatever comes to mind, specifically about how big of a douchebag Kody is.
She's another one who is holding dress rehearsals. I'm not sure that anyone has really talked about that, but there's definitely a pre-conversation before she starts filming with Jen and her other friends.
See, I picture it as it's Meri putting makeup on in front of the mirror. She's preparing for the day, and it's her going, oh, I can't believe you said that. It's her practicing the reactions to, oh my gosh, you can't say that on camera about Kody. Shh, be quiet, guys. Don't. He'll hear. He'll find out.
She's working on her charisma like she's a sim.
She's, well, and then it's the Willy Wonka reaction to things too. Don't. Stop. Police. Help.
Don't insult my ex-husband.
How dare you say such things?
Do you really believe that to be true?
Unbased, unfounded claims that you are spewing about here. Ridiculous. Absurd.
All right, let's get the pony in the water. We're going to get through this episode. We're going to make it fun.
Do you know what Bible verse this comes from?
Oh.
You thought you were going to get past the Sister Wives Preacher?
I did.
No, absolutely not. It's from John 8:32. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That's it.
Just no context around that?
No.
Isn't that the point of the Sister Wives Preacher?
Well, it's basically just about, I think it was Jesus was talking with some Pharisees because it was a debate. It was a topical debate at the time of what is righteousness, what is the law, and what does that mean in God's eyes. So it was a lot of questioning of established religious principles. So it is kind of interesting.
This episode must be inspired by Meri then.
She's challenging this. It ain't Robyn, that's for sure.
Well, Kody would call it shit talking, but I guess it was revealing the truth. The truth is setting Meri free.
Or is the truth that Christine's definitely not
got a messy taco?
She's got a sloppy taco making a mess of the dress, and she's not fit to wear white. White is not her color, specifically.
Let's return to Josephine's attic, shall we?
We don't have a choice.
How many times do we have to watch them eat here? I'm going to need food reviews.
I think, are they just contractually obligated? I just feel like everybody got burned out on Salsa Brava, and there are only 2 places to go in town that are close enough to film, and they're right across the street from each other, and they really overdid it on the Salsa Brava during the Christine and Kody divorce, and then subsequent Janelle and Kody divorce, and eventual Meri and Kody divorce. A lot of Salsa Brava flying around.
It's so easy to eat gluten-free at a Mexican restaurant, too.
Everything's corn. Yeah, you got a bunch of corn options.
Do you like corn?
Do you like corn, Meri? It's corn. A big lump with knobs. It's got the juice. That's the song.
I know. You know, outside of the song, it doesn't sound great. We're going to pretend that this is a romantic getaway from the kids, though. Not something that we're contractually obligated to go film.
Well, Kody's just thankful that he finally gets some time with Robyn alone. He gets her all to himself, which hasn't that been the basis of the entire show? Is that Robyn gets Kody to herself, Kody gets Robyn to himself.
Little Ari's always hanging on somewhere.
Yeah, the co-sleeping, that was a big problem. We didn't address that in the storyline too much on the show. Kody complained about it a couple of times, but maybe that's why they're not allowed at Salsa Brava. They were caught canoodling in the back seat in the parking lot. And
they got thrown out.
They've been kicked out of that establishment. Banned from the premises. Yeah, they have their photocopy of their driver's licenses up at the front and says, do not seat these people.
I'm going to need Robyn to stop trying to convince us that she does other things during the day. Because she was also trying to really play up the story of they don't get out of the house much. There's just so much to do. There's homework. There's dinner. There's bedtime.
For Rora and Brianna? Because she was talking about how the girls are so busy with college, but then she's talking about dinner time and bedtime. You're still tucking them in? How long does it take for bedtime? Bedtime shouldn't be an all-night thing, because we know for Ari, she stays up till 2 o'clock in the morning. Bedtime is from anywhere between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. It's a pretty long shift.
That's her only shift, isn't it? When is the nanny clock out? I guess before dinner.
Before dinner. Yeah, so those are the only things that Robyn is responsible for in the home. And
Woo,
that
thank
is,
God she
yeah,
gets to get out of here and do something a little different tonight.
draining and straining.
We're in agreement, though, that the whole point of this is that they have to get out of the house because they can't talk about going to church around Saul and Ari. What is with that?
Is that what we're still shielding them from?
It seems like it. Last time she had to have them leave the house so that she could talk to the girls on the couch. And now we're going to revisit this conversation. So we have to go somewhere where the little ears can't hear.
Maybe you can go to Chuck E. Cheese next time. They've got shitty pizza and they've got stuff that can distract the kids. So that would be 2 birds with 1 stone.
I would actually love to watch Kody and Robyn take the kids on a date and have to parent while also having an evening out together.
I would love to have them have this conversation about religion while playing whack-a-mole.
That would add something special to it, wouldn't it?
Robyn wouldn't be able to get a word out. She would just be so concentrated and overwhelmed with everything that's happening in front of her.
Well, basically, as soon as they sit down, they start talking about why they're here, which is the girls just came to me. We're pretending that Kody doesn't know that this happened at all.
Yeah, we have to build up a church storyline. We already planted the seeds for it last episode. Now we really need to get it set so then that way the audience is prepared to watch. Because if we just threw you into us going to a church and saying, hey, we're checking out some churches, it's something we've been talking about, that's too jarring. Nobody's going to be invested in that.
We're not going to be able to follow it.
You got to build it up. 2 full episodes of Robyn segments to just lead us into the path of being open and accepting to the fact that they are going to look at a couple different churches.
I'm actually really annoyed the more I think about it because she obviously told Kody about this beforehand, and I don't feel like we're getting his first reaction to the idea that they're going to be doing this.
Well, and to be fair, she's not really giving him the whole story yet either, because she's just talking about it from strictly religious principles and religious standings, the theology of the conversation, not so much on how this is a path to dicking down. So she's leaving that part out. Wisely, I would say.
He knows that, though, because he's been there, done that.
That's his move. That's his move. That's Robyn's move. That's Kody's move. And then now they're getting upset that this is the only way that they've described finding love to Robyn's kids. And now that's what they're trying to do because that's the only route that they've been given. And that's even being kind of frowned upon.
Did you get from the last conversation that Roar and Brianna wanted Robyn to facilitate the entire situation?
I just assume that that's always implied, that Robyn is going to be the arbiter of what is acceptable for any of that process that's brought to her.
She's moved on from screening their movies and their music to screening their churches.
Oh, she's still doing that. That's how she spends the rest of her day. While the nanny is taking care of the rest of the house during the day.
That's what takes up all of her time. That's kind of making a lot of sense.
It is a full-time job.
Think of how much media you consume. If, as a parent, you had to screen every single thing that one of your kids was going to be exposed to, that's a lot of work.
That's why they're trying to ban TikTok.
This is also kind of reminding me of how Kody could not understand that Isabel could schedule a COVID test by herself.
Yeah, I thought moms do that. Moms are supposed to do the things for the children, right?
We always thought that that expectation came from the fact that Kody didn't want to do these things himself. But maybe it's just because Robyn does all these things for her kids. So that's just what he thinks mom should be doing.
Well, I think Christine was doing that. But then Christine is a more normal parent in that she does allow autonomy for her kids at a certain point when they get old enough. I think she's capable of scheduling a COVID test as needed.
We can't go back there. Let's not talk about COVID anymore.
It's the protocols.
I'm so glad we moved past that storyline. What did that take? 3 seasons to get through?
Oh, we still mention it. It's part of Meri and Robyn's turmoil, too. So we do bring up some COVID later in the episode as well.
I think the most shocking part of this conversation was the talk about plural marriage, because at least the audience has always kind of thought that Brianna and Aurora would probably live plural marriage. And we found out the last episode that neither of them are real into that idea. But for some reason, Kody is into it for them if they wanted to.
He's not a fan of Ob, of their church group that they were a part of, but polygamy, just generally, sure, yeah, I think that'd be good for them.
Okay, but the religion aspect of it is not what led to the downward spiral of this family.
So are we going to see them on Seeking Sister Wife, though?
I have so much to say about this. First of all,
You better check those DMs. Garrick's probably already sending messages.
oh,
You gotta
he's
be careful.
ready to go.
Yeah.
They've
watch
got
out.
the room ready. Danielle with 2 N's and 2 L's. She wants sisters here. She's got real sisters now. She could take both.
Oh, no. Yeah, this would be terrible.
Okay, but we need to see it. I wouldn't want them exposed to Garrick.
I don't want anyone exposed to Garrick. It's bad enough Danielle with 2 N's and 2 L's is still stuck there.
We see how terribly, though, living polyamory, right? Because when you remove the religion aspect of it, that's what it becomes. We see how badly that tends to go for people on those shows. But he's cool with that. And then also the reason that your marriages fell apart was because you were a shitty husband.
Was that God's fault, though? Are we sure it's not God's fault?
He's deflecting to anyone and anything possible at this point.
Because you know what Kody's big issue with the church is? They keep telling him to cut his hair.
Yeah, that was a big part of it.
A real sticking point for Kody, where he does not want these religious leaders and these deacons of this church to tell him what to do with his hair care curly girl method. That's where he draws the line.
I have a theory about this, though. I don't know that it had anything to do with the length of his hair. It's just, it looks bad. It looks unkept and ungroomed. So maybe we can do something about that.
But he took that as like a personal attack then, that they're trying to wound him in these ways of insulting his hair and telling him he needs to cut it. It's not presentable. But I think Kody knows if he cuts his hair shorter, if they're telling him to cut his hair shorter, there's just going to be patches that are midway up, kind of here and there.
No, we have to full on shave his head at that point.
Yeah, it's not redeemable at this point. It's much like Kody's character on the show.
That's though what his hair does. You have to go all the way in one direction. So you either have no hair or you have to grow your hair out to hide where all the missing patches are.
What if that is the character secret here, is that Kody's character is just getting worse and worse? It's like a Samson in the Bible, you know, that story in Judges. So it's like having cut the hair then breaks the spell of all of his douchebaggery.
I think someone should cut his hair. That seems like if you really wanted to wound him, that's the way to do it. He takes a lot of pride in it.
That's how they used to do it in the WWF. I'm just saying. They used to have hair matches. It's a real thing.
What, where they cut people's hair off?
Yeah, the loser would have to shave their head. They would get their head shaved in the ring. It really ratchets up the stakes.
I could see Kody being a professional wrestler. I think that fits.
Kind of in the way, well, maybe not as successful as Mariah Plath. Because I think that was always the career path that we set for her in our minds.
I think there's a fine line between reality TV star and pro wrestler, to be fair.
It's a thin line, but it is a fine line. Yeah.
I'm kind of shocked to hear you talking a little shit about this, though, because I feel like I've heard many a story of you complaining about being told that you needed to cut your hair.
For different reasons, though. Yeah, I mean, I went to a private Christian school where I was constantly told to cut my hair, that my hair was too long. I think has to be.
Oh, I've seen pictures of your hair.
Well, yeah, but I think there was like the school paper was doing questions to the principal, and then I think I had asked one. It was a very similar argument that Kody had laid out, where the religious leaders that you base a lot of this on, your belief system, had long hair and beards. So why are you ridiculing me for having long hair?
I was just going to say Jesus had long hair.
Yes. And then that's what Kody was pointing to. A lot of the Mormon church leaders who founded their religion had long hair and beards. So why are you going to get on him about it?
Does that mean that Kody has finally made his way back around to being like a 14, 15-year-old boy questioning religion?
Well, yeah, that's good. That gives me a little bit of confidence where it's, okay, yeah, I think I was maybe a freshman in high school when I was asking that question. So that, if you want to clock where Kody's mentality is right now, it's me 20 years ago.
He had other big questions, though. Like, what if the girls end up in a cult? That seems to be the worst thing that could possibly happen.
When do we have the moment where Kody realizes that the call is coming from inside the house?
Well, that's where I was wondering. Does he realize he was in a cult? He has issues with his religion. He doesn't want anything to do with their church anymore. He's talking about cults. Does he realize he was in a cult?
The fact that Janelle's mom was worried about Janelle marrying into a cult, she went to go stop that from happening, and then she married Kody's dad. That's always my telltale sign.
It was all the confirmation you needed.
It's a cult. I mean, to be fair, we know my stance. All religions are cults, but some are just more widely accepted than others. That's the standard. So there is a difference.
I would love to have Kody Brown on this podcast just so that you could argue about religion with him.
Maybe we can convince him to come on. Just he did that other podcast more recently where he kept telling them to edit things out even though it was live. So he can do the same thing. I edit the shit out of this podcast. I wouldn't edit a single fucking thing if we interviewed Kody Brown. I would leave it all in and it would all be there, especially with him asking, oh yeah, let's cut that out. And I'd say, oh yeah, definitely. Cool.
It was on a live.
It was live. It was live, man.
And it was obvious it was live because people were reacting in the comments.
Yeah, and it scared the hosts too because then they kept looking at each other because he said it multiple times and they just kind of let it go the first time and then a few times in, then they were like, uh-oh.
I gotta say, that's kind of shitty. You got to tell them, like,
it's live,
do you
dude.
realize what we're doing right now?
This is happening.
There's a live audience.
Yeah, we're here. I think Kody thinks that he wasn't in a cult because it was his church. It was his. So he would never join a cult.
He's smarter than that.
He's smarter than that. Yeah,
the girls aren't.
You can't fall for that. But yeah, Aurora and Brianna, though, they could definitely fall victim to that.
They're young and impressionable. Almost like he was when he was, 19 years old?
Yeah, 20 years old on his mission.
So we're right about in prime time.
Well, this was always what was confusing to me, too, because now that he's a monogamous man, wouldn't he be pretty much okay to join the Church of Latter-day Saints now? Or is it just, it's too much of his history now that he's bringing with him as a publicly polygamous man who is divorced down to monogamy?
I don't know. It's hard to understand how they tend to make decisions, but...
we've seen them reject people for significantly less than that.
My assumption would be that if you've spent over a decade on reality television trying to convince other people that living polygamy is a positive way to live, and that you were living the true aspect of your religion, I don't know that the LDS Church would be up for that.
Well, you find out that the OB was right about one thing. Going public was going to be the downfall of this family. So there are some prophets in the church still.
When Meri said it's kind of funny if you think about it.
Well, don't think about it too hard. And actually, it's not that funny, but it is pretty funny.
I'm not sure they really predicted how spectacularly the end would fall apart.
I was going to say how quick it was too, but I haven't felt that yet. It's still a slow motion train wreck for me.
This conversation is kind of a little bit of a betrayal, though, because why aren't the girls coming to Kody and talking to him about this? They're just talking to Robyn. Why do you think that is?
Well, Cody's very concerned, yeah, because he has a great standing relationship with Aurora and Brianna. So he just wants to make sure they still feel safe and comfortable coming to me and talking to me about those things, right? And Robyn has to assure Kody, oh, yes, absolutely. But there is just a level of intensity that Kody tends to bring when it's the topic of religion specifically. So I think that's why maybe they were filtering through Robyn a little bit.
Do we think maybe there was a little insight there that sometimes when you're talking about a topic that you have a lot of emotion attached to, that your children worry about having those conversations with you because they tend to not go well? Can we maybe apply that to other areas of our life and other children? No? Okay.
These are the only kids that count. And honestly, Robyn is the mom that any of Cody's kids would feel the most comfortable going to and talking to about religion. All of them. Any of them. He mentioned his kids.
I think he's only thinking about those housed in the She-Ra Chateau.
Yeah, because normally when Cody's referring to a wife's kids, he says their kids, her kids, Janelle's kids, Christine's kids, Meri's kid. But he's talking about his kids, which are his kids in his house with Robyn, his wife.
I'm already getting annoyed by them because then we cut to Brianna Aurora and they get their own little talking head. First of all, I am so annoyed with the cadence of the speaking. It is so slow. They're thinking about every word they say. They're on the verge of tears. And then we got the matching gold cross necklaces.
Standard issue
The
at this
first
point.
thing my eyes went to.
Yeah, of course.
You can't go to church and believe in Jesus without owning a cross necklace for everyone to know as soon as they interact with you what your beliefs are. So they did some pre-shopping before they did church shopping.
Of course, yeah, you have to have the proper attire to then go enter into the houses of worship.
This combo was kind of weird because at first Kody sounded like he wasn't going to come to church with them, that he was just going to let Brienne, Aurora, and Robyn go do it because he would just sit there and listen to everything that was being said and he would be picking it apart and he wouldn't be able to help himself but to interrupt and try to correct things.
It was a weird part. Yeah, when he was talking about how he's happy that Aurora and Brienne are going through this struggle because it's a similar struggle that he went through in his early 20s. And he's excited that this is the path to learning how to communicate with God directly for Aurora and Brianna, because that's what happened with him.
Well, he needs them to do that because the less they have to come to him for things, the better.
Yeah, and this is being brought up through Robyn. So now it's concerning Robyn, which is concerning Kody. So he's just extra focused on this. But that's all kind of secondary. What's going on between Robyn and Kody? That's where we need to level set here. Are we still good? Because we've talked about, the kind of the religious stuff here. Maybe we'll get to church together. I would like to be a part of that because I don't want any dudes trying to pick you up while you're there, thinking you're a single mom with Aurora and Brianna showing them around.
I hated this so much because to me, it reflected the controlling parts of Kody's personality and fearing that Robyn is going to betray him in the way that all of the other wives had, and that she's going to do it by going to church and finding a new man.
That was his move. Yeah. He doesn't like people using his move.
I mean, really, it's her move.
It was her move too. And then that's what he's worried about too, is he doesn't want her getting any ideas of, hey, I don't want you pulling the ripcord on this parachute here too.
I feel like Robyn's list of requirements has changed if she's going to find another husband in the future, and worrying about how religious he is or how attractive he is, they've fallen pretty far down the list. At this point, we're just left with rich and old.
Checkbook. I think that's the top of the list.
It's kind of hard to ask people at church how much money they have in their checking account.
You could get a glimpse of whatever they're dropping into the offering tray if they're throwing in cash.
She'd pull a check out of there.
You'd fish it out, be able to piece that together eventually. Robyn did look scared when Kody said that he wanted to come to church with them, though. She was generally alarmed by that.
She knows that he's going to embarrass them.
Yeah, he's going to stand up mid-sermon and start a debate with whatever's going on. And he's going to be wrong, too, in the process.
Which, if that's your thing, maybe explore Judaism.
Do they do that at Temple?
But if you want to debate things.
Oh, okay. This is the atheist conundrum, is people like it when you question things. But then if you continue questioning things, then people really don't like that. Is what I've learned personally.
This is how we get on to retelling the story of how Kody and Robyn met for the first time. Met
or locked eyes longingly for the first time. I guess it depends on where you're defining their...
The first time their loins lit ablaze.
The inspirational moment where their love story began, according to them.
I am actually enjoying that we are revisiting this because it has given us the opportunity to look at all the facts again. We've been told on the show before that Kody and Robyn met for the first time in the driveway of her cousin's house. They've also told these stories in Robyn's #1 New York Times bestseller, Becoming Sister Wives. And this is the backstory to how they got to being in the driveway that day.
Because I think technically the first time that they met was in the driveway. That was the first time that they spoke.
They had an interaction.
That they talked to each other, that they
were introduced formally.
Yes. And so that is technically the first time they met. But there was an inciting incident before that that paved the way to that meeting. Because Meri had talked about that as the first time that she introduced them, that they had met Robyn.
I think it's funny that Robyn happened to be in this church far away from home with her cousin. She sees this man who she finds attractive, and then coincidentally, he ends up invited to her cousin's house a few weeks later.
As a single mother with nothing to give you, she was surviving strictly on She-Ra delusions at that time. And her inner She-Ra was trying to tell her, steer clear of this one. But then God sent the lightning bolt through her loins, and that is the dragon that Brianna is chasing this season. She is waiting for her own lightning bolt toe curling moment in church. She is just...
I need us to get to the point where they're going to churches.
God,
get the storyline there faster.
I need Brianna to bust out a hand fan and be on the verge of fainting for the collection of dudes that are going to be parading about in front of her.
Well, that's the origin story. It seems like Robyn has to regale Kody with this story on a regular basis.
Yeah, this felt almost like a weekly occurrence, maybe daily on sometimes when Cody's really having a rough week.
It's a bedtime story.
It's Cody's nighttime story. She's tucking him in, and that's how we end the day together here. But the fact that he was making her retell this story again, but there was a familiarity there. It seems like this is something that Kody requests on a regular basis.
Oh, they talk about it all the time.
Maybe it was just what they were rehearsing. This led into the story very casually, very naturally as part of the conversation.
They're comfortable with the lines at this point. It's just interesting to think that even the very beginning of their relationship, there seems to be perhaps some manipulation to get to the point of meeting this person again. I don't know that there was a lot of serendipity to the second interaction.
Well, Kody just needs the reassurance that God is his wingman and that God still cares where Cody's dick goes. I think that was the big part. That was the reassurance that he was looking for here. And then also, he trusts that God will cock block on his behalf as well. So to just keep Robyn eyes off, just take a look, one glimpse at that bling ring.
Yeah, he doesn't trust God that much because he went out and got another ring for her.
Yeah, we need the bigger one.
This is the one that we saw in the, what was it, the tell-all, the look back? What are we calling it? Is it the tell-all?
Yeah, look back. Look who's talking now. Look who's talking too.
The talk forevers. Yeah, this is the copycat Christine engagement ring. We got a different shaped stone, but the rest of it, all the same. There is no way that's a coincidence. And I'm going to blame my favorite family scapegoat, which is Mykelti. Mykelti definitely showed a picture of that ring to Kody or to Robyn.
Not even a picture. She provided the CAD designs and said, let me grab that as a file for you. I'll save it down. I'll send it over. And she did.
We better get some church shopping going because I am rearing for it. I am ready. Almost as ready as Brianna is.
I don't think anybody's as ready as Brianna is. Maybe Christine, because, yeah, we've got Christine and David at their engagement party.
I want to complain as much as Janelle is screaming inside about having to attend another Christine wedding event. But this is the only time that we get to see various family members.
It was good to see Hunter. Yeah.
Knowing that, I feel like I take back my initial reaction to having to watch it.
It was only one scene. I can deal with one scene. If they cut back to this later on in the episode, I might have lost my mind. So I'm glad it was just the one single solitary scene. We could just get it out of the way. There was some comedic relief. We had taco references. The tacos looked good.
The tacos looked really, really good.
Really good.
My mouth's starting to water.
Yeah, it's like talking about warheads when we were at Target the other day.
I'm very hungry now.
Oh, boy.
At least there was good food. Were there 4,000 tacos, 3,000 tacos? We don't know.
There was enough. They were made to order.
This is kind of a casual get-together. Nothing too serious.
Christine has her white dress on because she is the bride. This is an engagement party, so that's classing it up a little bit here. But then the bets start circulating. David is taking $5 bets to see how long it's going to take Christine to get something on that dress.
And if it doesn't happen here, it's happening later tonight.
He did not specify what the substance would be that would be getting on the dress. So
where was Mykelti for that joke?
Wasn't there. Yeah. Well, and then also it wasn't necessary because, yeah, Christine, as soon as she took one bite, immediately got some beef broth on the dress, and that's not a euphemism for anything. I don't think. I hope not.
And the family rat is here to let David know that he's got to collect his $5.
Mykelti be snitching.
She really just finds a way to be irritating in every circumstance. And I'm not really understanding or seeing the connection where Christine was was it bragging? Or was it complaining about how Mykelti and David are kind of the same person and it's like she's marrying her daughter? I don't see that at all in David.
I don't see Mykelti and David. In what ways would David and Mykelti be similar?
I think the literal only thing they've ever had in common is the fact that they were both rooting for her to spill something.
Drywall? Is there a drywall connection that I'm not aware of?
Is she also interested in prehistoric excursions and dinosaurs?
Does Dave have a cleaning business that he shames Mykelti and Tony for not cleaning up their residence enough?
Has she talked about David's sense of humor? I feel like there's the impression that David has a dry wit about him, and I would not say that that is Mykelti's sense of humor, but I don't know if that's the connection point we're making.
You know what the differences are? See, I can see more differences than similarities.
Thank God.
I think a difference that I could see is that there is a desperation in Mykelti's humor where there's a need that's attached to it. The need, it's the attention. I don't think David, I keep calling him
He's
Dave.
attention seeking.
Dino David does not need the attention.
No.
He does not want the attention, does not seek that.
I feel like he's like the Homer Simpson shrinking into the bushes gif.
And that's not Mykelti. She's looking for the spotlight everywhere. Take your wins as you can get them, though. At least Truly's not biting him. I think we've occupied her with some delicious food instead. So that lowers the risk for David here.
He's got other kids harassing him, though. If Truly's not doing it, now we've got Hunter. He's eyeing up those shrimp tacos that David's got on his plate.
Which Christine offered up to Hunter, but I don't think David offered them up, but he does hand them over. So does Hunter kind of steal David's lunch? Is that what happens here? They're sharing, but we're putting that in air quotes. Sharing food. Because it doesn't seem like David shares food.
No, they've just worn down his will at this point.
It was never something that he used to do, and now it's just something that kind of happens to him.
Much like many other things in his relationship with Christine. They practiced cutting a cake. What was up with this sheet cake? Was it on the flimsiest piece of cardboard that has ever been produced?
I thought it was going to snap in half. Yeah,
I was worried.
When Aspen was setting it down, she set down one half of it, and it looked like it was going to fold in half like a book.
Like a 90-degree angle.
It almost did.
What kind of bake do we have on this?
Medium rare?
I'm worried. There was a lot about the cake that I couldn't look past. Also, printing pictures of people's faces on cakes. Can we get beyond that? That film doesn't taste good.
Monochromatic, too. So is it going to make your teeth and your tongue all black, too?
I wouldn't be eating the cake to find out because they cut all the pieces and then they both take their forks to the middle of the cake and start eating slices out of the center.
Because I think they realized they were trying to cut each other's faces. They wanted to eat the faces.
Why? That's Mykelti-like.
Or cat behavior. I don't know. Yeah. But they wanted to practice cutting the cake. They did cut the cake, but they cut it in a very unusual way. I wouldn't recommend going with this on the day.
Also, let's take the slice out of the cake before we start eating it.
Yeah, especially if you're going to double dip. Because if you're going to do an initial scoop of it, take that. Okay, great. But I think they realized the mistake was if you're cutting from the middle of the cake, there's no way to get that piece of cake out.
That's why you have to serve the other pieces before you get to the center. This is not hard, guys.
It's not rocket science.
It's not cake science. Thank God that was the only thing we had to watch about the wedding. I was getting burnt out, but this little segment was enough for me.
But still, please, Puddle Monkey, don't test my patience.
Meri seems to be just filming the same things over and over again. What is up with that? Because now she's going with Jen to go visit Brandy. We already saw her talk to Brandy earlier in the season.
It was the season premiere. This is like a double inception of scenes that we've already seen. So it's conversations that we've already had with Jen, and then a circumstance of hanging out with Brandy in Las Vegas, which we've already done. And now we're meshing those two things that we've already done together into making it a whole new experience, even though it's not really, because it's the same shit that we just did.
You know, the best thing that came out of this was the Chi-Chi chillers.
It's not a bad idea.
I'm not going to move past that. I think that's ingenious.
I think you need to trademark it, and I think you need to brand it. And then they'll end up on QVC, and maybe Robyn will buy a couple of boxes. I don't think you're going to be in a bad way.
Chi-Chi chillers for everyone for Christmas next year.
Moving day Chi-Chi chillers.
They get to Brandy's house. She has one of those TikTok cloud couches.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Anyway, well, it's apparently not comfortable because by the end of it, all of them cannot wait to get in the car to drive over to the cul-de-sac just to get off of this couch because they were in such pain.
Well, they were about to fall over, too. I think Meri said her foot was asleep. Her legs were asleep. I thought it was from the drive, but no, it's from the couch.
I was super excited seeing Kody finally call out the fact that Meri just has her friends talk shit about him so that she doesn't have to do it, but that's the whole point of her filming these scenes. That was just chef's kiss. These two people, again, they're the same person. Although Kody will talk shit about you.
I was going to say, Kody doesn't have any friends to talk shit about Meri.
Yeah. Well, Nathan won't do it. Isn't that like his only friend?
He tried. It's his best friend. But
and Meri's brother-in-law.
Yeah,
so conflict of interest.
He's not going to be able to do that. He's not going to be able to fulfill that role for Kody. I think it's funny where this is another thing that Meri gets to be high and mighty about and tout over everyone else about how well she's handling her divorce, because it's basically like her and Kody have been divorced for 10 years already. So she's in a way better place than when Christine left and Janelle left and they were saying their shit and Kody was saying his shit, and the behaviors were a little immature, if we're being honest. If Meri's going to go ahead and look back at it and compare, even though comparison is a thief of joy.
Yeah, says the woman who's had a decade to make snide comments here and there. How many days is that? 365 days times 10?
3,650 days.
That's how much time she's had to process this divorce and say shitty things. Let's not get so high and mighty.
I think she bottled it all up, though.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. She internalized a lot of this.
I think she talked about it to Brandy and Jen because they seemed to know a lot of what was going on behind the scenes. They started off the conversation, though, and I'm not sure that Meri knew what direction Brandy was taking this, because when she mentioned all of the cheating, Meri got Pikachu face. She got real worried.
She was like, oh no, we're bringing up catfish?
Let's not talk about the catfishing.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about catfish. And it was like, no, plural marriage in general.
We're taking it way back to like the first question that anyone has ever had when the show started.
Yeah, it's like the note card that Puddle Monkey always has with everybody who interacts with the family from outside of their religion. Anybody who's doing any business with them. 19 seasons into this show, they're asking the same questions.
Have you ever met a polygamist before?
What did you think when you found out they were polygamous? Would you still do business with them? Yeah.
I don't know. The answer seems to be no for Brandy.
Well, Brandy seemed confused because I don't know who to believe here. I mean, I think Meri is saying that they used to have double dating regular frequency here between Kody and Meri. And then Brandy and her husband, they used to go out, hang out, spend a lot of time together. And then Cody's saying that they maybe met once. He helped them move.
He does this all the time. He did this with Jen, too. He pretends that he doesn't know the people that are talking about him.
I feel like, well, yeah. And then this is also the man who last week told us that there's some stuff that you just don't remember as a caveman brain. It's some stuff goes in and then not everything can come back out.
I just think I've heard that defense before.
This does sound,
I don't know her.
This sounds like a Kody defense. This sounds like a Kody defense that he's making this up. So that way he doesn't have to defend any of the claims that come from that. He can just discredit and say, well, she doesn't know me.
Well, and it's funny that this person who doesn't know him seems to have the same perspective about him and his behavior that the entire audience and his ex-wives all have.
Maybe Brandy's just watched the show. Maybe she's just a friend of the pod.
The cheating brings something interesting up that we did not have Meri spill the tea on before, which was that she texted Kody after she got the release. And we all know that he was shocked by how fast she moved forward with it, even though it took over a month from the time that she texted him and told him she was going to go do it to the time that she told him it was done.
But it was like a week. It felt like a week, though, from the time when Kody didn't respond.
Well, and that's if we're just talking about the text messages. Never mind all of the years that they have not had a relationship, that this is just moving really quickly for me. making the end of things permanent.
So then, yeah, Meri reads the text. It was a solid text. This was a good text. And I mean,
She's overly nice to him.
She's well thought out. She's framed everything. She's provided logic, reasoning, these things that don't really apply when you're communicating with Kody Brown.
His reaction was that he accused her of having someone waiting in the wings, that she was leaving as quickly as she was so that she could go be with someone else.
Jen? No, that's different. Strictly business.
So he's essentially just applying what happened with the catfish all of those years ago to this situation now.
Well, either that or he's got some feelings about Christine's relationship that he's been hearing stuff about. And then
that's a good point.
That gets cast onto Meri.
That's moving pretty quickly too. I wonder if maybe they knew each other before she left. That's what's going through his mind.
Yeah, so he always just copy and pastes his emotions from the disappointment in one marriage, and he just applies that to another one.
But also, why do you care? You got on TV and said with your full chest that you would be happy for her if she moved on. Go be with another man.
Well, that's the insecurity, though, is that he needs to know who it is. So then that way he can try to compare himself. Does he have a full head of hair? Does he have a motorcycle? Does he
own as many bear statues and paintings? No, I think the answer is going to be a solid no for pretty much anyone.
That's impossible. Yeah, you can't out bear statue the She-Ra Chateau.
Then he tried to pick a fight with her, and she was not having it. She was like, I'm not talking to you that way. You're going to treat me with respect. I kind of think that Meri is imagining that part of the conversation.
There was one part where she shut it down.
The part where she stood up for herself, I'm not so sure really happened the way she recounted it.
Not exactly. Yeah, if it's the conversation that they were showing us, which was when he came over to talk when they were planning the move. And I think that was when Kody was kind of asking if she was coming over for Christmas. But there was a lot of weird stuff in that conversation too.
The fire part of this episode is where we start talking about Robyn, because they start making a case for why Robyn was the favorite and why she was a shitty sister wife. And if Meri's letting her friend say it, she believes it.
It ain't wrong. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you about it here on this wildly uncomfortable couch.
So she's still thinking about moving day, moving into the B&B. It was kind of weird. It was emotional. It was a little horny, I got to say.
There was some tension, sexual tension, a little bit of frustration.
They start talking about the weird reaction that Kody had as part of that.
He broke down. He had a breakdown.
And everyone is still puzzled by that because they have lived through listening to Meri call them and tell them all the terrible things that have been happening in her relationship. Kody making lists of things for her to do. He's sending her on side quests before he will return to his marriage with her.
Fetch quests, specifically, which are the worst, the absolute worst.
She followed all of the COVID rules. That didn't help. There was obviously favoritism, and Brandi has been speaking out on it for a while now. It seems like she's been telling Meri the whole time, if he's at Robyn's house and he's staying at her house, it's because he wants to be there.
This is where they kind of walk it back, where it seems like this wasn't the intention. By having Robyn join the family, this wasn't the goal, the end goal from the onset. But it is just kind of how things ended up. There was definite favoritism towards Robyn. COVID just ended up being kind of an excuse to just permanently stay at Robyn's, even though I would argue he was doing that in the cul-de-sac too. It wasn't even COVID. It was before that.
I think the favoritism goes all the way back, like to the beginning. And the first thing that would have set me off was the honeymoon.
I'll go even before that. It would be adding Robyn into the rotation when she moved to Lehigh.
Oh, I agree with that too. There were little signs, and then giving her, what was it, a 10-day, 14-day honeymoon, something absolutely ridiculous. 11-day honeymoon. We'll meet in the middle. Right after your other wife has given birth to a baby, and you should be helping her and bonding with the baby, and you're running off with Robyn for 11 days when you have all this other responsibility, and your other wives had a honeymoon that consisted of going on a road trip for a couple of days. That should have been the red flag to everyone, that Robyn was going to be treated differently from here on out.
Well, they blamed a lot of this on the wives, too, the OG3, because it was the same thing of Robyn kissed Kody when they got engaged. And that was because Christine said, if you get engaged again, next time you get engaged, don't wait until the altar to kiss, because that's what Christine and Kody did. And maybe there were some regrets there. So she was saying, hey, let's nip that in the bud. Go ahead. Here's your free pass to go ahead and do that. As soon as an engagement becomes official, don't wait to kiss the girl.
Okay, but even if Christine did say that,
Kiss the girl.
He has 2 other wives. What did they think about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he just heard the answer that he wanted, and so then that's what he moved forward with.
Running with it.
Same with Robyn. Yeah, that was the answer that they were looking for, so that's what they're going to run with.
And there's always been this narrative that Meri and Robyn were supposed to be besties. And we've seen through the years all of the ways that Meri has shown up for Robyn. And actually thinking back on it, the only thing I think you can say about Robyn being there for Meri was when she offered to be a surrogate.
And who was that serving? Who was that benefit for in that moment more? I don't think it was for Meri. I think that put Meri in a really awkward, uncomfortable situation because she did not know that that was what was going to be offered up. And then she still didn't know if she wanted to have another kid or try to have another kid with Kody. That was still up in the air and had been a topic of discussion for them for a season and a half, 2 seasons at that point.
Yeah, I just really don't respect you to have that conversation in front of a camera.
While she's holding your newborn infant child.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more so for Robyn's benefit because she needed to plan around, am I just going straight to baby number 2 with Kody, biological baby number 2? Or are we going to...
Am I keeping this womb warm for you?
or are you going to have something in the interim here?
We have been getting little glimpses. I think this really annoys Meri, how things have ended with Robyn, because she has made little comments leading up to this episode about how Robyn doesn't text her back. She reached out. She didn't hear anything back. And now we're getting a little bit more to the story about she felt like nothing was ever really reciprocated on Robyn's end.
The example that she gives specifically here is that Robyn didn't go to Meri's mom's funeral to support Meri during that. And even Kody went at that time.
Even Janelle went.
Even Janelle. So that's saying something.
Her mortal enemy showed up for her that day.
Because everybody loved Bonnie. R.I.P. Bonnie.
I think this is a tough thing, and it seems like Meri even knows that kind of holding it against her, she feels conflicted because it was COVID. But also, I think the part that's not being said is that Kody came to the funeral and probably immediately went back to Robyn's house.
Ding, ding, ding. That's the part. That's the part.
Does it matter if Robyn had come or not?
That's exactly it, because I was going to say, I am one to speak on this because I had a family member who passed during COVID. It was a very complex situation to try and determine what the level of involvement would be there. It was very difficult. We took COVID very seriously. I didn't go to a lot of those things. That was very difficult to have those decisions in that time. Very complicated. Very difficult. Had I gone and you didn't go, that would be one thing.
Well, what would be the point? Because you're coming home anyway.
If
so
you would go, if you would go and then I wouldn't go, that doesn't make any sense. So I think the part where if they had both decided, if Robyn and Kody decided, hey, no, we're not going because of COVID, and that was the reason, boom, that's it. But if Kody went and then went right back home to Robyn's house, then it doesn't matter. So you not going doesn't really mean anything.
I just think there are lots of ways that you can show up for people in scenarios like that. And going physically to the funeral is one thing, but if I had to guess, Robyn didn't show up in pretty much any other way that she could have during that time.
Didn't offer up a meal, flowers, phone calls, probably didn't reach out, probably still didn't stay involved in any other way that she could have potentially been a source of support for Meri during that time. So that's when Meri took a step back. She kept inputting into this relationship. She was noticing that there was no reciprocation. And so the more she dialed back, then the weirder it got.
And there was no reaching out to try to figure out what's going on.
And it just sort of fades away because that's just what happens then. So yeah, we've kind of reached the conclusion naturally of that relationship between Meri and Robyn.
Jen had the best line of the episode for me, which was when she pointed out, you stayed out of everyone else's marriage, but not everyone else stayed out of yours.
I don't know if I 100% agree with that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, especially for the OG3, I feel like Meri was involved in some of the other relationships, in some decision making at least.
Okay. I think that comment was really aimed at Robyn.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think she just needed to say Robyn meddled in everyone's relationships, and I think that's fucked up.
So let's retranslate for Jen.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the point that we can go with, is just lean into that. It's not that, oh, Meri did this thing better than Robyn. It's just Robyn really overextended into everyone else's. It was as soon as she became the mouthpiece and the go-between, the Kody whisperer for everyone else, that was when it became a real mess, because then you don't even have direct communication between these other people in these relationships.
Yeah, I know no one thinks that Robyn is a master manipulator, but that in itself creates distance between those two people, where they feel like they can't trust their own ability to communicate with one another without you being present.
And then any bond, any progress that you're making or fixing of issues or troubleshooting that's happening with that, credit goes to Robyn, because we wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for Robyn. So Kody just gets closer and closer with Robyn.
Well, and Cody's talked about how important intimacy is for him, as far as having emotional intimacy with Robyn, and that he didn't have that in his other marriages. You're not going to have that if you don't have private conversations with your wives, because your other wife needs to be involved as the middleman.
And Kody leaks like a sieve, so you know that he's always spilling the beans.
Well, he spilled the beans to Meri in the conversation after the breakup, where he told her that Robyn took it really hard.
Yeah, that breakup conversation that we had out on Coyote Pass, where we ostensibly ended our marriage of 30 years, and that was really rough for Robyn.
Poor girl.
Poor girl. That was really hard on Robyn. I wish we could have had that conversation without Robyn. Okay, why did you bring her?
The self-control that it takes to not react in that moment, that's how you know all of these women are just so over him by the time they've actually broken up with him. Because that would be my number one question. Why was Robyn there?
That's a great question.
Why did she stay? If she was getting upset and she didn't want to be there for the conversation anymore, she should have left. There was a car.
She did. She stood up and walked away. But
it was came back.
It was to draw attention. It was because she needed to stop this conversation, and the only way that she knew how was to have a meltdown.
And she thought Meri was going to chase after her.
She thought that they would. Somebody would, yeah, but no.
They were intent on ending it that day.
Well, they had already ended it off camera before, and I think that's what Meri wanted. Meri wanted that closure on camera, and Kody wouldn't give it to her.
I mean, that opens a whole other can of worms about if Robyn was just trying to make sure that she didn't get that in the end because she knew that it was something that Kody didn't want to do. I'm really over things being hard on Robyn. Just seems like no one else's emotions ever level up to those of Robyn.
Yeah, to not even stop and think, man, if it was that rough for Robyn, I can't even imagine how rough it must have been for Meri. But Meri didn't make a show of her emotions. She didn't freak out. She didn't run off crying. So I guess Kody saw that as she was just this cold, heartless, stonewall type reaction that happened here. But I don't think that was it. I think that was a really difficult conversation. It was hard. It was frustrating for Meri.
None of his marriages have ended with his wives crying.
I guess we'll have to see. Yeah.
They're overjoyed by the time that time comes.
We'll have to see how his relationship with Robyn ends and then see if she's crying that day.
The fact that this episode ended just like the one a few episodes ago where Kody went and stared at the gate of houses in Vegas.
And just, it's so weird because we were there like the week before the episode aired when Kody went. And so now to just have
this is like a reoccurring thing.
The pilgrimage of each individual adult going back to the cul-de-sac now when we did it this season too.
Yeah, also, I'm like, damn,
weird.
if I knew that, we could have taken like a picture of the back of us standing at the gate.
Something.
She doesn't go beyond the gate though, because that would be trespassing.
Well, whoopsie doopsie. Lesson learned. Yeah. And I like how this is not important to Meri at all. She took 2 seconds, did a quick look around and was like, all right, I think I'm ready to get out of here.
Did the producers convince her to do this because they liked having this little bookend on a story of Kody and Meri?
I feel like Brandi just lives close by. And so they were like, well, we might as well swing by.
It was an interesting juxtaposition to have seen Kody get so emotional and look back on this place filled with really positive memories, something that he would want to revisit and go back and experience it again. And Meri couldn't even look for more than 2 minutes.
Well, you think about the differences in the experiences. This was pretty much where the nightmare began for Meri, in this big empty house when she was going through her turmoil when Leon was moving out and going to college, and she was alone in this big empty house. And then catfishing happened. Kody leaves Meri.
She was alienated by pretty much the entire family. Nobody was calling her when they were getting together to do things.
And then they move to Flagstaff. And so it's the whole moving that happens out of this house. I don't think there was anything that Meri would look back fondly on here. There's a lot of turmoil in this cul-de-sac for her. So I think it was more of a good riddance sort of gesture for her, which is cool. She got closure. I don't think she really needed it. She kind of breezed by and took it for what it was, and see you later, I guess. Gonna go drown my sorrows in Domino's and ice cream, you know? I don't want to think about this shit.
Meri's been working through a lot, and she's finally come to the realization she has been married once and divorced twice. And that's kind of funny when you think about it.
It's a rare bird, definitely.
Next episode, there isn't one. There is a break week for Christmas. There's no new episode of Sister Wives on Sunday,
You scared
December
me.
22nd.
Oh my God, yeah, you terrified me.
Do you think people are going to think it's the end of the podcast?
I don't know what happened. Yeah, there's not one next week. What?
There's a break. So we will be releasing something, so you'll have an episode to listen to, but there won't be a new episode of Sister Wives until the new year. Is it the new year?
No, it'll
like
be
I
the
lied about
following
that.
week. It'll be New Year's Eve, which is a very special day.
No, New Year's Eve, the 29th.
Well, that'll be the Sunday. So yeah, for the Patreon members.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Well, now that we've thoroughly confused the shit out of everyone, the summary of this is there is no Sister Wives episode airing on TLC on the 22nd. The next episode comes out on the 29th on TLC. No, I'm making it worse. Let's stop.
Yeah.
Let's go to announcements. This is an important one. Do not stop listening.
Well, New Year's Eve, we got something big planned.
We do. We
Big
have
news.
something special going on. It's going to be happening on the Patreon, but you do not need to be a member of the Patreon because it will be posted as a public post for everyone to be able to access. We are going to be dropping a special podcast episode called Kody and Carly's Rock and Robyn New Year's Eve celebration. I'm just going to keep adding words to it.
Okay, yeah. Celebration commitment ceremony.
And we are going to have many special guests. I cannot stress how many there will be.
Yeah, because there's lots of conversations to be had.
So mark that on your calendars. That'll be December 30th. Again, not New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve.
It's that day before New Year's Eve.
Well, I was actually excited to make another announcement, so thank you for reminding me because that one was kind of important.
Okay, yeah, that's a big one. And it had a little bit of a segue there since we were talking about Monday the 30th anyway.
Happy belated paper shuffle-iversary to Kody and Robyn. The date that we should not remember, December 11th, 2014. It's been 10 years since they were legally married.
Another day in December that will live in infamy.
I didn't want us to forget that. That's something we need to remember to celebrate every year.
Along with Joseph Smith's birthday, if you celebrate.
I got some other Sister Wives in the news updates. Are you ready to hear them? I know you're not familiar.
I feel like I'm pretty in tune with what's going on in the Sister Wives universe.
All
Why?
right,
What do you got?
Update me on Potato Farms.
Potato Farms.
Potato Farms.
They got gift cards
Potato
now.
Farms. Okay.
That's
not
big news.
the update I was looking for.
No, that's big news, though.
They are moving along at a glacial pace. They have learned that you need permits and all kinds of things, kind of like when you build a house. Building a farm, there's a lot of red tape. You look shocked, Corey. Do you not think that you need to survey the land and make sure that there's no
prairie dog plague?
Yeah, or near extinct animals or wetlands or anything that needs to be preserved before you just plow over it and start dropping seeds for flowers?
Just the lack of foresight from every single individual in this family is astounding to me. And I think that's why this show will never end. It will never end.
Oh, I am here for watching Tata Farms get developed.
I need to see it.
It's going to take at least 3 seasons before we even get a seed in the soil.
It's just going to end up like Coyote Pass, where it's just going to appreciate so much in value over the time that they spend dicking around trying to figure out how to jump over all these hurdles to do the business they were out set to do. And then they're just going to go, well, we could just make $2 million by selling it. And then they'll finally piece that together too. We made about that much in shirts too. So maybe we should have just started an online shirt store from the onset. We didn't need to buy a huge plot of land.
I would encourage them to just stick with the merch. There's a lot less overhead too. Maybe they could just...
I don't know if there's less overhead because I think that they're
not drop shipping.
I think they're sitting on inventory and then they're individually packaging these themselves and not paying enough shipping to get them there. In some instances. That was in the first week.
By the way, that happened to us, not from Tata Farms.
Oh, no.
And we're pretty sure it was a scam. So if we ever ordered from Tata Farms and the shipping was short,
I'm sending it back. Yeah,
we're not paying it.
I'm not paying that shit.
Maybe they should just start a t-shirt line with images of flowers.
Maybe you could
Let's
have
meet in the middle.
The genus and the species, and you can give some little flower facts about it there. Make that part of the design. Make it look like an apothecary notebook sort of detailed description for it.
Go. Stop giving them business ideas.
I'm just saying, that could be a thing.
Well, that's all I got as far as what's going on in the news.
Those were your Big Sister Wives updates in the universe that I wasn't aware of, that you were going to blow my mind with here.
Mm-hmm. I hope you got everything out of it that I did. I was very excited for
very
that.
fulfilling. Thank you.
It's the only other update we got. The tiers on Patreon, they're on sale. They're 50% off for your first month. That means you can sign up and pay $4. That's, what is it, $4? And $6. Sorry, I had to do the math of 50% off. I'm not good at my pluses and my minuses.
Yeah, you're not the COO here.
No, that's running through Christmas Day. Maybe we should have done Joseph Smith's birthday.
Isn't it the same day?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. All right,
December 25th.
Joke's on you guys, because December 25th wasn't Jesus' birthday either, so.
We're going to miss it, because there's not an episode.
It's a day of rest on Joey Smitty's birthday. If you made it this far, you are a super fan, and we thank you for that. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of the Sister Wives community.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.